Home, the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada and the rest of the world, you're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts and your only host this week, Theo, living in Kingston, Ontario. Danny is under the weather, so wishing all the best to her. This will be a shorter episode. I know we promised an interview. Unfortunately, based on some circumstances, that has not come to fruition. So we keep promising it. I'm not going to promise it this time. We'll see if it happens. But it has been discussed, is all I'm saying. So there is a lot to get to. I got some news, Ultimate Canada news related stuff, some dates, things you need to know about. Going to talk about the Pro Champs that just happened, and then the postseason starting. So most of the teams, if not all the teams at Pro Champs, were teams that made nationals in the past. So they kind of skipped this part of the postseason. So the teams that were Pro Elite Fight last year don't have to go. So we'll talk about that. That's main event. It'll be, once again, a shorter episode, but a lot to get into. So starting off with the news, because I'm not going to do a get to know you segment by myself. So let's hit the news right now.
We now have breaking news.
All right, news time. So mostly Ultimate Canada related. So one is, hey, did you ever want to be part of Team Orange? Well, here's your chance. So multiple championships happening. There's the CQUUC, so September 23rd and 24th. You can go to that clinic for free. Cost is waived, it says, so that's pretty cool. The CEUC, which is Easterns, just another way to say Easterns, in Belleville, Ontario. The Quebec one was in Sherbrooke. That cost is $25. So you do get an official Ultimate Canada Observer jersey, so that's kind of hype. So if you want to be part of Team Orange, hey, here's your chance. All right, next. The Art Hawkins Fund, Outreach Grant, and National Coaching Certification Program Grant are open for a second intake. So that will close September 31st. So if you want to learn more about these initiatives and kind of some funding programs with Ultimate Canada, check that out. Go to the website. Okay. U20s, all my young listeners out there ready to sling the disc on the world stage. Here's your chance. There's going to be some tryouts happening. The player applications open. Well, they've already opened. So there you go. There are 2 tryouts in 2023. Trial attendance will be open and will take place over 2 days, Saturday and Sunday for both East and West. So the Toronto one is 7 and 8. I think that's Thanksgiving, because I don't think because Easterns is the weekend before and then Steeltown's the weekend before that. So 5 to 6 hours on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday will end by 2:30, and that will be in Toronto. So Ontario, Quebec, a little bit easier, but of course, people coming from the East Coast, the true East Coast folks, will have a bit of more of a travel. But as Danny has said before, please sign up and try, because hey, it's a way to get experience. And we had talked about this, how there were some U20 kids that got cut that ended up playing U24. So, hey, there's there's opportunity. Even if you get cut, I'm not saying you will, but if you did, you could still make U24s, because that happened this year. So anyways, just confirm that it is Thanksgiving. But hey, you got to sometimes sacrifice to try to make Team Canada wear the red and white. All right, West Coast tryouts going to be in Burnaby Lake Sports Complex on October 28, 29. So that will be after the uni season. Same thing, 5 to 6 hours on both days, and it will end by 2:30 p.m. All right, so in terms of dates, it's all on the Ultimate Canada website, but the East tryout applications will close on the 22nd of September. The West tryout will close October 13th, and then the optional video fitness training submission is due the 31st of October. So get your apps in, apply, good experience, okay? And excited to see what those new coaches we talked about last week get to do, or 2 weeks ago, get to do on the world stage. I'm going to take a sip of water here live. It's a little different when you're solo, right? So, anywho, Pro Champs, we're going to talk about that. We'll start off with traffic, which was in Pool A. They go 1-3 in pool play, so they do not make the semis play-in game. It's not a traditional. You can kind of call it quarters, but not really because there isn't 4 quarterfinals. They go 1-3 in pool play. Their game against Parcha was streamed. I got to watch some of it. Traffic went up half 8-5, so looking good. But eventually Parcha starts to come back and tie things up. They held out of Traffic scoring, so they made it 11-10. 11-9. They call a timeout. They get a hand block, a nasty hand block, and they get an immediate turn. And with Traffic's D-line out on O, there's a really long point, which included a timeout. Parcha does get a block on Traffic's goal line, ties things up. But yours truly, Danny Proby, throwing an assist on a smooth hold for Traffic to go back up. And then after a Parcha hold, Traffic holds themselves, Daisy Lynn with a big layout, and then they get a break after with Brianne Wager throwing the inside shot to win. So they win 14-12. But there was a point there where, Parcha made Traffic sweat a little bit. Got a little nervous out here. So some other results. That was the first game for them. They fall to Scandal, the number 1 team in the tournament, 15-11. Let's see the other results here. They go down to Phoenix, the eventual winner. So spoiler alert on that. And then they lose 15-8 to Brute Squad. So the Pool B had Sixers in it. So they took on Grit, which we said would probably be, these are all good teams, but the team that they probably wouldn't have that much trouble with, and they win 15-10. They have a game to forget against Fury, losing 15-4. And they just come off the game against Grit. But once again, some of the scheduling, for example, Phoenix had to play 4 games on day 1. So that's the way it is with the pool, how it's set up with 5 teams. So Sixers takes on Riot. That one was live streamed as well. After being up 8-6, Riot ties it multiple times. But Sixers does eventually get the hold, and then they break twice, and that's kind of how they win. So Riot overthrows a Huck. Sixers punch it in right away. Alyssa Mason throws a down the line shot to Christine Jurichuk to make it 12-10. And then Sixers come on in a zone look, get a quick turnover short field, and they punch it in. And like I said, eventually they win 15-12, so take down Riot. And then their other pool play match, close contest, dropping to Molly Brown 13-11. So they finish 3rd in their pool, which is good enough to get them in that semis play-in. So the top seeds automatically go to the semis, and then it's the 2-3s crossover. So one had Molly Brown beating Brute, and then Scandal played Sixers, and Scandal wins 15-6. So Sixers in the consolation bracket. And in the 5th place quarter, so it's the teams that were 4 and 5. So Traffic beats Grit 12-10, and then it's a rematch of the CUC Women's Final. So Sixers, leaving no doubt, it was a lot closer in the original matchup in British Columbia, but here in Milwaukee, Sixers walks away with the win, maybe runs away with the win, the way the scoreline is. They take it 14-6. And then they fall to Brute Squad for 5th, so they come 6th overall. They lose 15-11, so potential regional final matchup preview there. You can catch that game as well. That was streamed. Ulti World did some placement games, so once again, that's always my pitch to get a subscription, and you can watch that game. Traffic ultimately finishes 7th, defeating Parcha in a rematch 13-8. So Pro Champs is over. Postseason out here. We're going to do this live. We're going to go through, I guess we could use Frisbee rankings, but USA Ultimate has their own rankings too. So that are pretty official now. So we'll take a look at where everything stands. We'll start with women's just because we had just talked about it. So Scandal still the number 1 seed overall. Very, very good team. And Phoenix, bumping all the way up to 2 with their performance over the weekend. Sixers is number 8 overall. They have a 4-7 record, according to this website, USA Ultimate website. They're actually tied with Schwa. They both have 2,186 points or rating, but Schwa has an 18-4 record compared to Sixers 4-7. Traffic will come in at the 9th spot with 2,129 rating. The lowest team is Minneapolis Pop, which is 25. So they finish, they're the best team of the North Central and they're 25 ranked. So, that shows that region over there. Iris, you were 17, so you were 2 spots away from earning a bid, it looks like. So pretty close. They had a regular season of 7-3. All right, let's take a look at some of the other regions. We'll go mixed here. So the top Canadian team, of course, is the Northwest Finest, Red Flag. They are the top-ranked Canadian team. They're the 8th overall. They finished with a record of 10-2, 1954 rating. But there's one other team ahead of them. That's Seattle BFG. So that'll be the top Northeast seed. Taking a look, I don't really think there's going to be other teams kind of in that top 30, or top 25. So that's mixed. In men's, it's men's in USA Ultimate, not open. FYI, but you didn't. Maybe some of you knew that. Furious George, 13. That's their ranking. They are the third seed, out of the Northwest. They have a rating of 1847 and record on the season 10-1. What game did they drop? Didn't they win all their tournaments? What game did they lose? Oh, they lost they won at Solstice, but they did lose to Sockeye. That is correct. Yes. Now I see that. GOAT is 15, so they barely squeak in. They actually get the last bid. So the Northeast benefits Condors, and the Southwest does not. So there were some results on the weekend that definitely helped GOAT. I don't know there's a lot of algorithm mathy stuff, so that's not my strong suit, but GOAT gets in. They have 1829 rating. They finish the season 8-4. Sub-Zero, they get the only bid for North Central. They're 17, so they're not like super far off. So yeah, those are kind of the rankings, and that will lead us into the postseason, which we're going to talk about in the main event after this break.
Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Daniel Fortin-Guichard, je suis entraîneur pour Quake. Vous écoutez Huckin Podcast, votre source d'information pour le Ultimate au Canada d'un océan à l'autre.
All right, sectionals. So I know in college we call it conference championships, but in club it's actually sectionals. So this is the first step of the postseason before the big time, which is regionals. Bids for nationals going to be taking place then, okay? So we'll start in the West Coast, true West Coast. We'll go men's division first. Washington sectionals. There's 12 teams, 6 bids, and there's 3 Canadian teams going. So Furious George, number 1 seed overall. There's 4 pools of 3. Victoria Surf. Hey, welcome to the section or sectional tournament. You get to play Furious. Have fun. That's cool. They're taking on Kala Wiffle Ball Club. Nice name, out of Seattle. So that's their pool. Oni out of Vancouver also going to be playing. They'll be taking on Ghost Train and Make It Rain, both out of Seattle. No Blackfish on the dock here. Was surprised maybe to see that they weren't there. There's a first place bracket. There's a second and third place-ish bracket. There's a whole bunch of brackets basically so some of these tournaments it can get confusing if you don't see it, so I'm not going to try to explain all of them. But essentially there is like certain brackets, some play-ins and stuff like that. And so the things you got to worry about is where the game to go is. So that's more kind of what you're focused on here. Of course, if you win your pool, you have a chance to make the first place bracket, blah, blah, blah. So there is a 6th place game to go. That'll happen at 1 o'clock local time. And so the winner of that will go to regionals in the Northwest. All right, so next we're going to talk mixed. 13 bids, 7 teams. 13 teams, 7 bids. Red Flag, your number 1 seed overall. They will play Grit City, Tacoma, Washington, and TT. Enjoyed playing against you at Nationals. Welcome to the postseason of the American Series, and you get the luxury of playing Red Flag. They gotta, are you saying that they couldn't just switch them with Squid Ink so that TT doesn't have to play like a fellow Vancouver team? Like, come on. I guess there's probably some Seattle teams that'll end up playing each other, but it just seems kind of a little, silly. But anyways. TT's the 3rd seed in that pool. There's 13 teams, as I said. So 1 team, which is Pool D, has 4. And Mola. Hey, that's cool. You're going. All the teams in your pool, Lights Out, Garbage, and Bop, are out of Seattle. So that's kind of cool, I guess. For them, you just get to play new teams. I think that's what makes it pretty cool to go to a tournament like this. I'm just going to look at their roster, see, if maybe they got some Fable players in there as well. I think it's cool just for them to get some experience here. And yeah, hopefully, maybe they can shock some things and get a bid. There's a bunch of bracket play. There's first place bracket, second place bracket, fifth place bracket, blah, blah, blah. It keeps going all the way down to that seventh place bracket. And that's if you get the seventh place, or if you finish seventh, you go. Okay. Now, women's Washington sectional, 6 teams, 5 bids. Only one team's going to be left out. It's pool play. So there's no play-in. So that's kind of interesting. Seattle Underground is there. Seattle End are your top 2 seeds. Then you got Drift out of Vancouver. Love it. Hucklebears out of Victoria. So 2 Canadian teams out here. Based on seed, they're going to make it, but you never know. Weird things can happen. Portland Raincheck is 5 and Seattle Soul is 6. Okay, so 6 teams, 5 bids. All right, there is the Northwest Plains. Where is that, you might ask? That is in the North Central section. And that is going to be taking place in Heartland, Wisconsin. No, this is not Milwaukee where, Pro Champs was. So they have some funny pool names. I'm looking at the mix. I'm sad to see no PBHG. I thought maybe they might go. That'd be kind of cool. But there's some interesting bracket names, first of all. So there's like a Chili's bracket or championship thing here, and then there's Applebee's. I personally am more Applebee's guy, so that is the championship area that General Strike will be playing in for this tournament. I don't know who came up with this idea. I think it's hilarious. I love the Great American Diner or like classic chain restaurant, so that's kind of fun. So yeah, there's Chili's and then there's Applebee's. General Strike is in the Applebee's pool. There's 2 pools of 4 within that. So in General Strike's pool, they have Bucks out of Milwaukee, Dingwop out of Duluth, Minnesota, and Spin Doctors out of Rochester, Minnesota. Strike, if you look at the roster, they added some of the top PBHG male matching players. So Will Medwig out here, and then 2 other people that, I've talked about them before, especially in that No Borders recap. Matthew Page, Big Deep Threat, and the Thomas Boyle out here slinging the disc. Will those 2 get big minutes and kind of assert themselves right onto kind of some power lines? Hey, I know I've seen them at practice because I saw the Instagram, at least Thomas Boyle was featured on a story. So they could get some big reps and help General Strike try to get a bid. If they win the Applebee's kind of bracket, they'll take on the winner of the Chili's bracket, which will probably be Sub-Zero, which will probably also be a preview of, in my opinion, what the regional final will be like. I don't really see. I'd have to look at who else is. The other section is West Plains, so I'm just going to take a look quickly at who's in that section and who could upset them. But I think it's going to be Sub-Zero. Yeah, I think it's going to be Sub-Zero, General Strike. There's Lunar and Kansas City Smokestack. I'm not too high up on either side. I know Lunar's won like a mid-level tournament this season, but I think it'll be Sub-Zero Strike in the regional final. That'll be pretty spicy. Maybe someone will stream it. Hopefully, please. All right, so we're going to jet all the way down to the Northeast region. We'll start in my old stomping grounds, neck of the woods, upstate New York sectionals. Batavia, New York. I've been there. It's fun. It's not even a far drive. It's actually shorter for a lot of teams from Toronto to go to Batavia than it is to go to like Jazz Fest in Montreal or No Borders. So it's actually like less than a 2-hour drive. I remember one year I went, I think it might have just been Maverick. There was one year we went as Maverick Nads combined with Nads, but we went to Chick-fil-A because it was only open on, of course, Saturday. So I think we drove 40 minutes one way to get Chick-fil-A. Totally worth it. But that's just a fun story for you. Okay, so upstate New York mixed, 10 teams, 4 bids. Few Canadian teams going. Okay, so we got to talk about it. Pool A has Union, the number 1 seed overall. Silver medalist at CUC. They're going to take on Buffalo Lake Effect. Bench out of, where are they out of? Albany. MASH out of Syracuse. And Compost Plates, which is the B team of Rochester. They might have a good game against Lake Effect. I believe they beat them before in the Rochester round robin, but they could get a good game from them. Pool B has Garbage Plates out of Rochester. Townies out of Ithaca, New York. Then you got 2 Canadian teams, so Crash and Zen. So Crash has like a decently sized roster. You know, sometimes you might get teams like kind of a smaller roster, which Zen has, but Crash going with a lot of people, so maybe they plan their season around it, which would be kind of cool. Because you know I'm all about playing in these American tournaments. So if that's the case, their roster looks pretty similar. Sure, there's a couple people missing, but it looks pretty similar to what you would see at like CUC. Whereas like Zen, looking at their roster, they have 11 players, so they're sending a pretty skeleton squad. Crash, on the other hand, they got like 20 players. So they got a couple players from Danger Noodle, looks like. Carly Muntz and Sabrina Trung. So they got a couple little pickups, but and some other players I don't necessarily recognize, but for the most part I see it like a core of Crash players. So in terms of what happens with bracket, the 1 seeds get by and play a final. So I think you're in if you finish first in your pool. 3 and 4 cross over, and the 2 seeds cross over, and eventually there's a 4th place game to go. Okay, so wishing good luck. Maybe Crash, see you at regionals. Not that I'll be there, but see you there potentially. Upstate New York men's. Last year there were some teams, like more than one Canadian team going. This year there's only one, and that's gonna be Phoenix, the number 1 seed overall. Don't want to jinx them, but I don't think they're gonna have too much trouble with this tournament. But you know, stranger things have happened. I always say that. Alibi and Dirty Laundry at Albany are 2 and 3 seeds respectively. Rochester Open, maybe some remnants of the Jenny Tall boys. I remember playing them. And then they became Jenny Light. Now they're just Rochester Open Club. You got to come up with a more creative name, Rochester. Come on. Got to come up with something different. Mohawk Valley Wild out of Utica, New York, and then Buffalo Frostbite. So how this is going to work, there's only 2 bids. So the first and second in the pools will play off in the final. 3 and 4s will do a backdoor play-in. And then the winner of that will play the loser of the final in the game to go. So you definitely don't want to do the lose-lose. See ya. Okay, always warning about that. Upstate New York women's, no bids, no teams, according to the document I have. So, yeah, kind of sucks, I guess. And remember what I said about the buys. So, Sixers would have been in the section, obviously, to Toronto. But, there's no other teams going. So, they also get a buy because they made nationals last year. All right, we're still in the Northeast region. We got to go a little further, though. We're going to go West New England. That will be taking place in Williston, Vermont. 6 teams, 3 bids. We got 3 Canadian teams going, so half the field is from the Great White North. So we have Mesa going, the 4 seed overall, second in the pool. They'll be taking on Sprout out of Amherst. Still got some good players. I know they lost some players to Dig, but still a good squad. And then you need to calm down from Montpelier, Vermont. What I have most intrigue in is Pool B. So Tire Biz Frizz, the legends from Vermont. They're listed out of Amherst, but I swear they're from Vermont, or most players from Vermont. Like Chase, they have some sick names, by the way. Chase Drinkwater, Johnny Sickles, for example. They'll be taking on Mephisto. Remember this, folks. Mephisto didn't make it to regionals last year because they lost to Tire Biz Frizz to start, and then they lost to Club M Manic. So this is kind of a little revenge game for them up here. They're going to be coming out firing. They got that new coaching staff. They're going to be fired up from CUC and how they finish. So they're going to be gunning for Tire Biz Frizz. That's going to be a game to watch for sure. And then Ascension out of Sherbrooke. We had talked about them kind of beginning of the season, how they weren't doing the Canadian series. So they've been playing a lot of American tournaments this season. So maybe they've played some of these teams. I'm actually going to go take a look quickly here to see, because I think it's pretty cool that they decided to kind of go American series this year. Try to change it up. You know, maybe they don't want to pay the prices to go fly out, and instead they're going to go play the American series. So they've played 3 tournaments in the States, New York Warm-Up, Boston Invite, and Vacation Land. So they've had some experience with some of these teams here, like a Red Tide, for example. They have a win over Rochester Open Club. A close 12-15 loss to Blueprint, which is a very good squad. So, hey, and a 4-point loss to Scoop out of Massachusetts. So some good wins or some good results there. So 6 teams, 3 bids. Staying in that same section, Women's West New England. Everyone goes. It's a 1-dayer, so that kind of stinks, I guess. Get to go to Vermont. Maybe you'll stay on the Sunday to watch some of those games. But a Starling, the number 1 seed out of Northampton, Massachusetts. Iris, and then Plow, also out of the same city as Starling. So pretty straightforward round robin, okay? 2 games. Fun. This is kind of a spicy little section. So you got mixed West New England, 5 teams. I've been told 1 bid. I'm actually gonna confirm that right now. 1 bid, that is correct. 1 bid. Okay. They will take on We Are a Club team out of Amherst. They got some Boston legends in there, like Jimmy Quella. I saw his name out there. Miles Montgomery Butler. Those are the 2 names I recognized. They'll be taking on a team called Lax out of Montreal. Some legends on this team. Chuck Cantone, Julie Landry, Julie Tremblay, Caroline Cadeau. Jean Lavie was told he wasn't going to be at sectionals, but hey, he's on the roster. Steve Bonneau. So there's some legends out here. There's also Zero Strategy out of Burlington, Vermont, and Sugar Shack, as well as another Canadian team, Harfang. Got a chance to play them at CUC. They're a great spirited squad, and fun to see the squad from St. Jean sur Richelieu out there playing in this section. So can a Canadian team make it to Northeast Regionals? It's, there's some good mixed teams, especially on that East New England area. So good luck to all those teams there. Now we're going to go East New England. That's going to be taking place in Devens, Massachusetts, where regionals usually is. 14 teams, 5 bids, 2 Canadian teams going, and they happen to be in the same pool. So Red Circus out here, the 4th seed overall, they had, I'm going to say it, a little disappointing CUC based on some of the expectations people had, including myself. So they're looking to right the ship here, have a good sectional tournament, and then make some noise at regionals. In 2019, if I remember correctly, Phoenix and Red Circus were kind of, I think, tied for 5th or something close to that. Like they were right there, and kind of, I think, peaking. And then, of course, COVID happened. So Red Circus trying to bounce back from that. And hey, they got a pool with Lantern out of Boston, Massachusetts. There's also Expendables out of Framingham, Massachusetts. I know my American cities. I've never heard of Framingham, so that stumped me. But then there's also Jerk Factory. They got up on Instagram, so kind of not a new squad. They've been to nationals before. They're from Farmington, New Brunswick. They have Darren Clark, who's a legend, has played for Phoenix in the past. Leo Hebert-Cregan. I guess he might be going to university, but he was a junior because I called his game at high schools, and he was impressive. George Lepper has played for GT, was one of their top players, kind of a universe line player. Played for Spawn last year, he's also on this squad. And then some players from Spawn that I recognize, Andre Gallant and Joel Beck, to name a few. So this team, hey, they could make some noise with 13 seed overall. There's only 5 bids. Maybe they can upset some teams in the pool and make things happen. So, of course, there's going to be some random play and stuff happening. So I'm not going to explain that all. But wishing the best of luck to those teams. Now, Women's East New England, also in Devens, Massachusetts. 5 teams, 5 bids. Siege out of Boston, Massachusetts. Vice out of Cambridge in the same state. And then there's Salty. So Salty out here, they usually compete at regionals. I think it's actually closer for them. Perhaps I can be proven wrong geography-wise, but I think it's actually closer for them to go to this than flying to No Borders. I guess they have to fly to these other tournaments too, but it might be closer. I don't know. Frolic out of Portland, Maine, and then Versa out of Cambridge. So not much fanfare here because it's a round robin and everyone makes it. So some cool stats I saw from a document I received about team registration. So overall, there are 248 mixed teams competing in the series this year. 240 men's and only 100 women's. So let's get more women's teams out there, okay? Northeast Mix has 46 teams, 3 bids, okay? And of course, the amount of teams in the region doesn't equal the bids, right? It's you got to talk about the ratings and doing well at tournaments, regular season tournaments. You need a minimum of 10 games, blah, 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 blah. Northwest Mix has 29 teams overall in the region and 3 bids as well. Northeast Men's has 38 teams, 3 bids. Northwest Men's has 22 teams, 3 bids. And then North Central Men's has 27 teams and the 1 bid, as I mentioned. Northeast Women's has 14 teams, 3 bids. And Northwest Women's has 13 teams and 3 bids. So remember, like I said, bids don't necessarily equal who's gonna show up, okay? Or how many bids you get. All right. Just gonna take a look here at some. Yeah, the registration numbers are very interesting. I don't know if I can share this document, but it is kind of cool to see how many teams are going here. All right, so that's gonna wrap up the episode. I don't have much more to add. Thank you for tuning in as always. Appreciate that. There'll be more to talk about, of course, sectional results and which teams qualified for regionals. The Nationals is coming up too in the series. And then, of course, university tournaments are going to start. So this is a call to action for any university teams listening. I'm going to send out a Google form about this, but to help with the power rankings, we need kind of some information. So just like, we're going to send this out to teams, don't worry, but it's going to include like your notable returners. And like, I don't need paragraphs. We don't need paragraphs of why they're a notable returner, but like this name. They played club, or you can just put in brackets GT 2023, GOAT 2023, Traffic 2023, whatever. U24 2022, whatever. And then that way we know who the notable returners are. I would also put, and you can't hide this because we will find it, your notable departures. It's not hard to cross-reference a roster from the years past, so just tell us. It just makes life easier. We will find it. It's not hard to compare like a Canadian roster from one year to the other. So notable departures, same thing. U24, we lost a U24 person. Hey, and then notable additions out here. So especially those junior programs. I know there's some transfer stuff happening. Some people going to U of T on the open and women's side that I'm pretty excited about. Someone transplanting from the West Coast out here. So that's the stuff that we want to know. Okay. Like just put down, notable addition, why, okay? Then power rankings eventually. I know people love that stuff. So come at us with the takes of our power rankings. All right. So short episode today. Gonna not do subs only. We'll return that back next week. Thank you for being a fan. Subscribe. There's the Asia Oceanic Championships happening right now if you want to watch that. And of course, all the Pro Champs footage. All the tournaments, like Fruit Bowl has some footage uploaded. Red Flag is in the game. I edited that game. You can watch that. So there's just a lot of benefits to being a subscriber. So please do that. And I'll see you next week. Peace.